I should explain some things about the absence of this video. So, 1, this video has taken 3 different turns. 2, this has taken 2 different devices. And 3, it's taken a lot more out of me mentally, I think. So, I had the first version of this video, almost finished the proper time it was supposed to come out. And I accidentally spilled Dr. Pepper on my laptop. That's the thing. The second one is I decided to build a new computer. It took about a month and $1,000, completely down, so that's finished. The second part is the fact that I decided to really try to make this video using my own footage, and that ended about as well as you think it could from that screenshot there. So the third video was really, the third version of this now, really, I should say, was looking more into this, and that's why this version is going to be, well, the first half of this is probably going to be explaining the story of the game, and the second half is my thoughts on what they really could do with this, because it's just sitting there. So let's get into it. So this is no news to anybody except for me finding it out later. Super Monday Night Combat is effectively dead. According to Steam charts, it hit an all-time peak of 1,277. What happened? Well, a lot of things. And this episode is going to deviate from the format of the last episode, where I'm going to explain what I think Uber could do to revamp the game and make money off of it because it's just sitting there. So let's dive right in. So Super Monday Night Combat was designed more at first as an engine change to the original Monday Night Combat, and then overgrew into something bigger as far as I can tell. Now, Uber was still under the pretense of the engine update, and when these little teaser headers came, a lot of people were excited. People didn't know what was going on. And, you know, as an Xbox player, I was expecting the engine update to come soon. It'd be the big thing they were teasing and announcing, because it was also going to include, I believe, new maps, so figured, hey, we're getting maybe one map, you know, the PC one that was released earlier. Instead, we got the announcement trailer for Super Monday Night Combat.
The rules have changed.
So that trailer was a huge tone shift to what the game was at that point. I mean, a lot of the other trailers weren't as serious as, well, anywhere near as serious as that first trailer. And it hinted at something that a lot of fans were not liking. Even PC fans. PC fans were worried. But there was a lot more information, and eventually we have Super Monday Night Combat. A game which, while Monday Night Combat took MOBA-like elements, was more MOBA than Monday Night Combat. And if you play it now, it is very much like a MOBA. There's a lot more focus on the lanes, the bots. You could even say it's close to, I guess you'd say what Paragon is. Paragon is very much third person. It's, you know, you're very close quarters to make your character. But make no mistake about it, it is very much a MOBA. Now, Uber, they tried. They had a closed beta, and you'd get invites and you'd send them to people. In fact, there was an entire subforum called the Chowder. A lot of people were in Chowder, and a lot of people got to test it. So then, eventually, it was going to be released, right? You know, you had a lot of time to work on, and there were some things that needed to be done. So there is now 2 diverging stories, and I'm going to lead with the one that I've known the longest first, before I lead with the second one. That is just fair warning. So as the beta testing began in late 2011, started through early 2012, and on April 17th, the game was accidentally released on Steam. Uber had decided to carry on with what happened and allow the release of the game a day later. Uber then also, in July, started to distribute Monday Night Combat on their own website. However, it seemingly isn't there anymore. I haven't been able to find it myself. Now, that SV story I've always heard. Now, the Polygon article has, how do I word this? A different account that makes me feel a little suspicious. So we're gonna go back to that for a minute, and then we'll be back on the main story. So, Monday Night Combat did pretty good sales-wise on XBLA, especially during Summer Arcade. But, of course, they hoped that they could get the DLC out and the updates out. But Microsoft, of course, back then, which they have gotten rid of, I made sure of this, they've gotten rid of since then, that held the policy back to where they would have to spend a lot longer than you would actually think to test patches and DLC and all that. So it took about 35 days, and it was a month on average for an update to release. And Monday Night Combat, in their eyes, didn't really work well if it wasn't updated constantly. So everything sort of focused more towards PC. So PC version released, we mentioned that in a prior video, etc. And Uber decided to ditch Microsoft to work on Super Monday Night Combat. And, yeah, they tried to work on a new deal with Microsoft, trying to get more expansions to MNC out, and some more Super Monday Night Combat stuff. And they funded the game all on their own. And they were starting to get pressured to where they needed to eventually either or get off the pot. By October, they had a new deal for Super Monday Night Combat to be signed for 360, but Microsoft added some more conditions. They decided to pull it out because they had a bad vibe and focus on just free-to-play on PC. And apparently, there had been so much time and money that had been spent during the contract negotiations with Microsoft that Uber effectively had not enough money to finish Super Monday Night Combat. They shipped it before they thought it was ready, and they were disappointed. So there is a contradiction there. And I'm going to leave it flat on the table, just because I want to get it out of the way. If somebody mentions it, it's fine, but there is two different stories there. They diverge in a weird path regarding the launch of Super Monday Night Combat. I don't think it's anything suspicious, but I do feel it's very weird that there is two different versions of the story. So, the version I've always believed is the accidental leak. That's one I've always been told, always heard. So, that's one I believe. The one with them not having enough capital to just finish Super Monday Night Combat, I can see it, but I've become so accustomed to the other story that is effectively my bias, and I'm just warning you now. So, Super Monday Night Combat launched on PC in an unfinished state, with most of the content they wanted to do, but there was a lot more work that really had to be done. This is 2012. We're 5 years out from that right now. Obviously, a lot of updates have been happening, right? Well, let's get into that. So, something I forgot to mention earlier, about a minute ago, Uber was still selling cosmetics early in the beta. Looking back, it's not as weird now as it was then. There are some things that are very suspicious about that, because crowdfunding wasn't as big as it was later on. So new players who were coming into the game after the early release, or the release, depending on whatever you want to say, started to notice that a lot of veterans had tons of cosmetics and were kicking ass. The game has a snowball effect. MNC had a snowball effect, and if players that are doing way better get ahead at certain moments, you're basically I'm being nice about it, but still. So as veterans had cosmetics they paid for from a beta and the endorsements and products, which is a minor stat buff system that the game already had, they had a ton of these things already. So they would slaughter new players. So eventually they reset them, and some rough matchmaking was kind of put in, a tutorial area was brought in there, and, you know, a couple heroes started to come out. Eventually, a month after the release of the game, Uber introduced the Turbocross game mode, which, if it was alive today, I would be playing. Basically just original Monday Night Combat's gameplay with the new characters. To some, it seemed regressive and lacked balance, but ultimately, it split the small player base enough as it is. Matchmaking had finally come, making the original game mode more appealing anyways to players on both ends, but for top-end players, the queue times became intolerable. In fact, the player base basically just ended up disappearing. The final nail in Super Monday Night Combat's coffin was the Kickstarter for Planetary Annihilation. It basically ended any real support that Uber would do to SMNC. They stated that SMNC would still be supported, but with the last update releasing on March 3rd, 2013, 3/13/2013. Not even an entire year after the game came out, Uber went on to release Planetary Annihilation, first in early access, then finishing on September 5th, 2014. It received mediocre reviews. It's a good game, I like it, but it's certainly not what I wanted. And then Uber announced another Kickstarter not even 30 days later, on October 2nd, called Human Resources. The concept, amazing. But the poor realization of Super Monday Night Combat and Planetary Annihilation at that point basically made it avoid hitting its goals. No, not a lot of people funded it, and it didn't happen. Now, I'm going to go into more detail with the next episode, which will be linked in the description if it's finished, so we'll get into that later. So Uber eventually received some layoffs and went forward with putting an expansion to Planetary Annihilation called Titans, which borrowed some of the elements from Human Resources, and admittedly, it was pretty good. It's, I think it's the only one you can get on Steam right now, but it's great. I recommend it. So, Super Monday Night Combat was interesting. It has aspirations. It's one of those games that it's so close to greatness, with it just hitting at the wrong time. There's a lot of things that held it back, including the player base leaving, because Uber didn't really put time into it. It could have been as big as Smite, which came out around the same time, if it had just been completed properly, if more time had been put into it. Now, there's a few people who wonder, including, I actually took some of this information from a user, Indio, on Steam, from his review, which is really great if you want to look into it also. What would this game have been if just waited about a year, put together then, and crowdfunded? It could have been amazing. But we'll never truly know what SM&C could have been. It could have been a lot of things. It could have been perfect. But we got what we got. And the game, as of March 13th, 2013, has not had a single update. To put that into perspective, the day that I'm recording this video is been 1,714 days since the last update from the time that I'm recording this. That's a lot of time, and the game is still on Steam's marketplace. So I segue into a section where, and admittedly I'm not going to do this in the series going on, I think, but I have to do it now. I'm going to speak to Uber and tell them what I think that they should do to fix and rework Super Monday Night Combat to make money for them again. You've got it sitting there, may as well, right? Okay, so I've just summed up the story of Super Monday Night Combat, and I wanted to take some extra time in this video to basically talk to and about Uber themselves, and to make a case for Super Monday Night Combat's revival. Super Monday Night Combat is just sitting there taking up space. It's being beat by both Lawbreakers and Battleborn. Both games notorious for being massive failure. But SM&C, even at its peak, didn't hit the same numbers that Lawbreakers got. Why? Timing. Free-to-play games were popular at the time of Super Monday Night Combat's release, but nowhere near as popular as they are now. Two of the biggest games in the world are free-to-play. League of Legends, Dota 2. Both games are part of the MOBA genre, something that both Monday Night Combat and Super Monday Night Combat are inspired by to varying degrees. Do I think Super Monday Night Combat hurt itself by leaning a bit deeper into the MOBA genre? Undeniably. Monday Night Combat had that perfect balance of third-person shooter and MOBA elements to make it work just right. SM&C leaned a lot harder into it with way too many classes and the locking system, meaning if you had garbage players playing a support class, you would have to preemptively know that they are shit at the game, switch to Leo or another support character. Now, I could be wrong, but in my eyes, all the modes suffer from this in a bad way. But that's just the beginning of the problems. Let's not even talk about the expensive microtransactions and the awful blitz map. Let's get into what Uber can do to make real money with this game. So let's start with that first star there, rework. First, I'd either rework or remove the locking mechanic. I get why it's there, but it's both completely useless for randoms and just makes the game worse. MNC was great because, and I know only having 6 classes made it a lot easier, but in a pinch you could respond to the problems that your team has, but you still had to eventually upgrade yourself with cash. Speaking of, second point, allow upgrades to be bought with cash if you don't want to wait for the levels. From most of the footage I see, unless people buy bots, most people don't spend cash on anything else, so why not? It would allow people who switch classes, if you remove the locks, of course, to get a foot to stand on mid-game. 3, in Super Crossfire, just allow the turns to be destroyable without bots. I get why you did it, again, mobile-like elements, but it was the dumbest change of that mode, and it would actually make it a lot more enjoyable. It wouldn't be like Turbo Cross, but it would be Blitz and Blitz weapons. Again, I'm not great at Blitz solos, and that certainly was not the case on Monday Night Combat, so I'm not sure if it's a me problem or if it's the fact that it spawned so many fucking bots, but I'm almost certain the Blitz weapons is a reason why I'm getting my ass handed to me. They're also overpriced as all fuck. I don't have anything else to talk about with that. Now about second R, retool. First, completely change the microtransactions. Bring in all the guns and stuff for everyone for free, take the cosmetic shit and put them in boxes you can earn overtime or can buy for about $1.29 without keys. Also, bring back Steam trading. 2, work on focusing at one game at a time. The last game you guys made was a VR game, and you folks have a noted history, I'll get into that next video, of forgetting a game you had made for another one. Focus on Super Monday Night Combat. You made something great. Show it some love this time around. 3, build up hype. Since this, and of course the forums, are my only real line to Uber, I want to tell them something. I remember the hype for Monday Night Combat and how excited I was for that game to drop. I spent $20 I didn't really have to buy a gift card and dropped 1,200 Microsoft points on a game that looked like so much fun, and it was. Monday Night Combat was an amazing game hitting at just the right time. I really haven't seen another game that's kind of captured that magic for me since, and even Super Monday Night Combat didn't do it. But it could, if Uber decides to roll with the punches and brings people what they want. Not even me, people have been on the forums asking for years for more info about anything coming to SM&C. Even bug fixes. These people are waiting for a word. Give them something and then floodgates of old fans will come back in ways you've never seen. Now at last star, republish. SM&C needs both a big spotlight and placement on other platforms to stay alive. Xbox and PlayStation have both gotten really big when it comes to older free-to-play games doing very well. And Xbox has changed a lot since Uber last dealt with them. Even removed the cost for patching, so put it there before PlayStation. Why? Well, because you have the biggest fan base on Xbox and it would be good PR. Where else to first bring Super Monday Night Combat with the brand that helped start Monday Night Combat? PlayStation? Well, it's more of a mixed bag when it comes to free-to-play. Big name games like Smite and Paladins do well, but anything smaller, ask the Killstrain devs. That's probably a good answer. Ask the Killstrain devs. But this leads me to an entirely different question. Do you have to put it on consoles? No, but it would be good PR and it will bring people to the PC version anyways because of that. But this leads me to an entirely different question. Is reviving Super Monday Night Combat a futile idea? Maybe. Personally, the only game I know that got more popular after it went free to play was Team Fortress 2. Other games like Brink were alive for a month at best, and Lawbreakers teeters on being alive when free weekends come to pass. Why isn't Super Monday Night Combat alive when it's been free for longer than Brink, and it's free compared to Lawbreakers? Uber's total lack of support, as mentioned previously, doesn't help. They had a community forum moderator from Germany doing the last few patches as far as I can find. If they want to bring people back, new and old, a series of high quality patches and content will need to be in the pipeline. This is assuming Uber even wants to do this at all. They might have Ultra Monday Night Combat in the pipeline, or that Smash Monday Night Combat game might finally be real. Who knows at this point? But it's such a shame to let a fun intellectual property go to waste, but hey, we don't have control over the IP, Uber does. Again, I'm so sorry for waiting between these episodes. I'm not going to make a promise for the next episode because there's a lot more things I need to do than this episode. But I can confirm that I've gotten in contact with voice of Mickey Cantor, Rodney Sherwood, and while I make no promises about him being in the show, I did get a response. So if anybody wants to be interviewed, please follow me on Twitter, right there, DM me. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, hit that little bell icon so you get the next notification for a video. Because at this point, honestly, who knows when the hell I'll drop episode 3. Thank you.